Plan the work and work the plan. And leave a trail of breadcrumbs. And leave a trail of breadcrumbs. Neural networks are going berserk. I love my job, but I hate the work. Present a carrot to bait the steed. Internalize and manifest the need. And leave a trail of breadcrumbs. And leave a trail of breadcrumbs. Climb out of the maze. Get in the groove. Find some other way. Feel yourself move. To cut through the haze. In a manner that's smooth. Set the trail ablaze. Get in the groove. Mark the entryways. Get in the groove. Plan the getaway. Something to prove. Send communicate. Attitudes will improve. Where was I anyway? Get in the groove.
There's a cat in the studio.
Some people lack a shred of ambition. Meanwhile, I act on my own abolition. Create a masterwork or navel gaze. Where was I anyways? And leave a trail of breadcrumbs. And leave a trail of breadcrumbs. Climb out of the maze. Get in the groove. Find some other way. Feel yourself move. To cut through the haze. In a manner that's smooth. Set the trail ablaze. Get in the groove. Mark the entryway. Get in the groove. Plan the getaway. Something to prove. Send communicate. Attitudes will improve. Where was I anyway? Get in the groove.
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
Climb out of the maze. Get in the groove. Find some other way. Feel yourself move. To cut through the haze. In a manner that's smooth. Set the trail ablaze. Get in the groove. Mark the entryway. Get in the groove. Plan the getaway. Something to prove. Send communicate. Attitudes will improve. Where was I anyway? Get in the groove.
My. Oh, it was very, very nice salad. And now I'm ready to get back to this thing. I have some concepts and all that. If you're just joining me, this is On the Record, Under the Radar, where I just kind of get online and mix and stuff and record and do things with audio. So if you have any questions about what I'm doing, just kind of make some motion in the chat and I'll see you over there. And, you know, instead of lecturing about audio engineering or whatever else, you can just kind of see what I'm doing. And I explain some things as I go to kind of, you know, pace through. This makes for good watching later on. And so some of our crew earlier, the audio cut out. You can watch the first hour earlier. The audio cut out is because I changed one of the tracks out, and I went into a different file altogether and didn't realize that it was going to reset things. So now we know, and we have the proof. But we had a good session with this track right here, and it's called Allison's Infinite Round 2, and it's composed by and performed by the great Jerry Rockwell, luthier of mountain dulcimers and other instruments as well, recording artist, instructor, performer, and all-around super cool guy and musical theory genius. And reached out to me and he said, "Hey man, I got these stems. You want to work with them?" And so he sent them over. And so in the first half of this, we took a listen to what he originally sent over and what I was working with and what my approach was going to be. And then we kind of stepped through I guess, basically one iteration of change. And I always save these files one way. And then as I make changes, I save the files with the suffix A, B, C, D, whatever. So as I get to the point and I goof up really bad, I can go back to the last version and then sort of start over again. And there's undo and whatnot, but I like to keep a record of my changes in case I maybe want to go back and go in a different direction. So the direction being, let me play you some of this if you are just joining us for this. And what you're hearing is Jerry Rockwell, 4 tracks, a dulcimer strum, some extra little kind of dulcimer spice on top, really high glittery stuff. Then we've got some dulcimer sweeps, which sound really, really deep and suspiciously like guitar, but it could be just a really big dulcimer too. And then we've got electric guitar, and this is a lead melodic part that moves throughout the piece. And then there's me on piano, and I added some of that after sort of doing some editing on the different takes, using the best of some of those to create a comp track to work from. And then we're not even in the real mixing stage yet. I'm actually still adding tracks. The goal is to actually get this finished, wrapped up this evening. So I intend at this point to go through finishing up primary tracking on what I'm going to add to Jerry's piece here, trying to keep it not too intrusive and very much based in what he's already put here, because it's really beautiful and minimalist and purposeful and has a nice sort of repetition to it that I want to keep intact. And all of my editing so far with the tracks have been aiming to keep the flow he's already established. But he did tell me to do whatever I want with it. So I don't know. So also you're going to hear some drums, very, very low key in the background for the most part. And I mean like a kick drum and some cymbals. They do pick up just a little bit at what is really sort of like it's a 4-part round, if you will. And the third part is where it sort of reaches a nice crescendo before kind of tapering off a bit. And I thought if we were going to have any big things going on, it would be in that third section. And even then the drums are sort of removed and laid back. I won't play the whole thing now. I will play enough so you can get an idea of where we're at in terms of the vibe. I set levels across the board with the mixer here. So let me go ahead and play it for you. I love that session drummer. It's really, really tasteful, and you can get in there with it. Let me get out of the mixer. You can get in here once you lay out the initial pattern or whatever, and then go into the editing section here. And then there are all these sliders for complexity, intensity, and then you can choose different patterns that are sort of installed. And then you can go over and create your own manual rhythms and do your editing and all that sort of stuff. So it's really malleable. It's not like drums in a box. You can make it something that fits the actual human performance of it. And the beats that are in here were entered by actual human people, and then they were just mapped out in MIDI so that you could be using them here in Logic Pro. Fantastic DAW. I love this thing. So that's all you hear right now, and I'm thinking that I really want to hear a little more lead type stuff, but I don't want to clutter what he's already got going on here. So I was musing in this last little bit here that maybe I could take his electric guitar lead and maybe convert it to MIDI and then use a keyboard on it. So it'll actually be Jerry Rockwell's performance on guitar that I'll turn into a keyboard and then work some way, maybe double it or find some other way to use it, repitch it, use it for harmony, take away parts like Thelonious Monk and leave just little bits dancing here and there. Because the whole thing's really organic as it is, I think it would be kind of cool to have one part of it that was sort of out in outer space. And I think Jerry would appreciate that as well. So maybe if I could find the right tone, but I'll just let me just see what I got here. The deal is I have to use all stock parts, plugins, sounds, stuff that actually comes with Logic Pro so that when it goes back to Jerry, he'll have the same stuff and he can actually hear what I did and keep what I did and or jettison what I did. So what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to highlight electric guitar take 2. Let me solo this. And let's listen. As I mentioned in the last one, his sustain here is killer. I mean, he's just running into note after note, even when it's been chill for a long time. He's got sustain for days, but he's being very careful not to overlap notes. There's a couple. So, I think this is a candidate for flex pitch. Okay. So, here's what I'm going to do. I don't want to mess with the original, so I'm going to duplicate this. Oh, not that. You have to pardon me. I got a new overlay for my my MacBook that has the hotkeys for Logic Pro, but I'm not used to them yet, and they're obscuring my normal keys. I can't see what I'm doing. I'm going to get Command D to duplicate that track, and then I'm going to put the playhead right in front there. Option drag. So I want to do the surgery on this duplicate track here and leave that track as is. So I'm going to solo this now. And now I'll go to flex pitch. Flex pitch. Boom. So it just did its little voodoo magic there. I'm going to go into the edit here. And from the top edit drop down, create MIDI track from flex pitch data. Bow. And now there we've got all of our MIDI notes now. I see a lot of cool notes, and I see lots and lots of little tiny dots, and you can see the colors ranging from real red hot, which is the highest volume, to some of these purples and other colors that are like probably ghost notes as his finger was moving. This is supposed to pull the notes one at a time. It's not very good with chords. So if there was some overlap, there might be just a little kind of a blurb. So I might get rid of some of these. I don't know. Let's do this. Take the solo off. Let's solo just on this. And it's used classic electric piano as the default here. And that's what we're going to be hearing. It's certainly not what I'm going to keep to use. That's pretty darn good. Let's compare it to the original audio. So there's a couple of little blurps maybe where he changed pressure and that the pitch rider didn't pick it up or something. That's actually really good though. And if it's not a percussive sort of instrument with a quick attack like a piano or something like that, we make it into a soft attack string or whatever else. You won't even notice the blurps. So who knows? But that's really good stuff that I got there. So having had that, and we have the original track here, let me get out of edit. And I hesitate to get rid of it, but I don't want to have too many elements going nuts here. So we're going to keep that. We're just going to dump this duplicate. Now that we have the MIDI is what we want. Let me go ahead and delete that. Okay. So I'm going to save, and I'm going to save this as C, since this is most definitely the next step in terms of adding things and changing how things were before. And we'll move forward from here. All right, so once again, I'm not even in the mixing stage yet. I have actually, at the end of the last hour, I did a little panning. And a little EQ's been done just to make things so that we could listen to it. But I have not done anything else. So we're just laying down tracks still. That thing is done. And I've got a couple of ideas about what maybe we can do with this. Like keep it for a ghost over the original, but also offsetting it, since this is basically 4 rounds of this one deal. Maybe taking this track, duplicating it with another instrument that's very, very light, very unintrusive, and offset it by 1 so that we get a different performance layered in. And maybe that'll be enough. And if not, maybe I'll put in something low like a cello using the keyboard. So I'm not sure which one to do first. I should probably go ahead and do my experiment with this. So let's go and do it and duplicate this track. And then we're going to go ahead and option drag. All right, and these are 8-bar phrases. So I'm looking for, since this starts basically in measure 2, this is the bona fide downbeat of stuff. It's a great phrase. The bona fide downbeat of stuff. So from 8 bars there, so I'm looking for measure 10. So we take this little dude. Oh, here he comes. Come on, dude. You've just been waiting. There's a reason that there's a cat in the intro footage to on the record. So I may have to stop here just for a second because he needs to be identified. And you don't need to be shy now, because this is Abraham DeLacy, Giuseppe Casey, Thomas O'Malley, O'Malley the Alley Cat. And he was born in our backyard along with his sister Stash, who rarely comes in here, but he pretty much owns the place and he knows it, right? I couldn't distract you enough, but I have to keep working, buddy. We'll see if this will work out, okay? Lay down. This is why it takes me so long to do stuff. Lots. We have 5 cats. All right. Let me go ahead and get us back over to Logic. So I'm going to offset this by the 8 measures. So we're going to drag this to measure 10. Here we are. So the first thing I want to do, I'm just going to solo these against each other and see what happens. That was interesting. Ooh, that's a little crunchy. So in the law of averages, given the repeated chord progression here, which, by the way, hi, I love you too. You're just laying here adoring me. I would love to adore you back, buddy. I'm working, though. I'll hold you on my lap, though. Where are my notes? Okay, well, we're in the key of B. We're in the key of B, and let me get an open track here. Instrument. Let me add one more. And we're going to use, vintage B3 organ. So B, it's the 1 chord. And then this is a Mixolydian tune, so the 7 is flat, and so it's A major. That just feels nice. That goes to the 4. A, E. Bounces back, to the 1. And then it makes an alteration of the 5 chord, which would be F sharp major. Instead, it's F sharp minor. It's nice, isn't it? And then back up, F sharp minor to the B. It's a pretty majestic change in itself. Minor 5 to the 1. And then returns to the 4 chord. And then back to the flat 7. Then to the 4. And then back to the 1. So instead of using the flat 5 the minor 5, or the major 5 to come home to the 1, he's using the 4, which is more of a soft kind of landing back to the 1. And because it doesn't have the finality of a 5-1 ending, it repeats a lot easier. It's a softer way of kind of getting around in a groove, and that's kind of brilliant. But he still uses the 5, but he also makes it a minor, so he actually is playing, he's playing with our heads is what he's doing. That's really good stuff, Jerry. Okay, so what I'm thinking then, he's really staying within the pocket on those chords. So the chances of having a couple of passing notes that are a little more dissonant than the others is fair, and we've hit it a couple of times here. Now, the thing about MIDI is that these performances can be completely changed and altered, which makes it, now I'm into the composition phase, and that's kind of cool. But I really, really want to try to keep this pure Jerry as much as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it another 8 bars to 18, because then we're halfway through the piece. And since the third section of the piece is where things start to really kick, that might be the appropriate time to bring in something a bit busier like this. You know what I'm saying? So this might work out cosmically. And if this first section doesn't work, we've still got another few sections back here to audition because they're overlapping, but you're not going to use them anyway. So that betters our chances of getting something that's going to work against this up here. So some of the times we can plan this stuff, and sometimes we just kind of cross our fingers and go, well, let's see what happens. Let's start off with this first bit, and I'm going to do a repeat of these 8 bars. Looks like maybe there's some overlap for some reason. And let's see what we got. I actually might be in the wrong spot, honestly. Wouldn't be surprised. I said 18. Okay, let me go ahead and pull this back. All right, let's go ahead and try this. I don't know. Not feeling that at all, and I might not have lined it up the way I thought I was going to. So let's do this. I'm going to follow some of the curves here. And get outside a bit. Let probability take over. It flows better in general. I think there's a couple of ghost notes in there that we can probably remove, but I like the way it flows. The rhythm of it is really, really good. And again, the impacts won't be nearly as pronounced because we'll take some of the attack off of that. I kind of like that, and this is the end of it right here. And in the interest of the old school where you only had so much time to get something done, which is still kind of true, I'm just going to call this and say we're going to work with what we've got right here. I really want to audition that, but sometimes you go down rabbit holes and before you know it, you've spent a week on a project. Okay. So let's unsolo these and see how they sit in the context of everything. Right there, right there. Okay, whatever it is, that clunker, it's not Jerry. And again, it's just a translation of the audio to the MIDI. So it's happening right here. I'm going to go into edit on both of the tracks here and find it and deal with it now instead of hunting for it later. It's right dialed in around this space here. There it is. I mean, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful chord, but it's kind of jarring where it is. And there it is. That's a G. There's a reason that that's not working well, because it's G sharp in this key. So let me do this. It wants to be there. Let me just make it a G sharp, and now play it. Ooh, now what's that? I don't know, but I'm getting rid of that. Oh, not the whole thing. Come on back. Just this. Whatever I changed made everything worse. You heard that? Okay, there's something else right there. And it's not here, it's on the other track. There it is. It's because I had two selected, more than likely. And they both moved out of key. There's one more somewhere there. That's it. Oh man. Let me just do this. I'm going to way undo everything. Okay, now we're going to deselect. You got to be careful about that sometimes. Now, where are you? It's on the other one, the top one. Deselect everything first. All right. And we did figure out that since we are in the key of B, we want G sharp, not G. What happened last time was when I moved that G sharp up to its proper place, everything else selected also went up a half step, and that's why we had that little collision there. Man, undo is your friend. Let's go ahead and audition that now. And it still sounds like it's a ghost note, so bye. Away it goes. One more audition. Fixed. And there's some sticky stuff there, but to be honest with you, this is getting towards the end of the last little bit, and I wouldn't mind if this wasn't going on at that point, so we can have a gradual tapering down. And I can do some more precise editing, but I'm going to call a point here where we're going to just go ahead and let this duet drop off and go back to the origins. So let me do this. How's it sounding out there, guys? Making sure I still have all my lights on. Boom. There's a plateau here. Boom. Boom. So the measure 26. It would not be a bad thing to have all of this here just break off, have a nice cliff, a sonic cliff. So we'll go ahead and boom. We're going to shorten those notes, take those out. That'll do. That'll do. All right. So I think the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a lead line, not a lead line. I'm going to add a solo low string that we can later put something on as long as we have the MIDI information. I like to keep the initial recording of MIDI, which is just the synthesizer information. You can apply any skin to it you want to, but I like to keep it simple so I can hear what I'm doing. So pianos and strings. Then later you open up the synthesizers and you drape them over your MIDI performance, and then you can hear it, in a lot of different things. Sometimes it's more difficult to hear if you're using the actual sound you'll end up with because the attack is really soft. You can't land on the notes fast enough or what have you. So not all the time. Sometimes you want to have that expression and work it into your performance. So what do I want to use? I want to use a string. So let me make sure, first of all, let me get out of edit. Here's instrument 5, which is just, okay, that's what I used to kind of play around. So let me kind of talk about what's happening here. Key of B, so. And it's Mixolydian B, so it's a flat 7. So it's B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. That's a funky, great interval right there. Everything's like la 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 la, and it's like, ooh, serious. Mixolydian is cool like that. We should spend more time in it. Oh, wait a second. We added that fret. That's why we no longer play in it. It's a beautiful thing. And then when you have the chord based off of that flat note, you get this cool thing like old Joe Clark, and it's C major and the C note in the key of D, and this thing here. So any of those notes, it's kind of what Jerry was doing with the lead guitar part. He's using notes from the B Mixolydian scale. So you thread those 7 notes over the top of any of the 7 chords in B Mixolydian, and it's going to sound great. But if you're going to linger for a long period of time, you want to do so on a chord tone. You don't necessarily have to, but it helps consonance and dissonance. And again, Jerry's created a very beautiful tapestry here that I don't want to come tromping all over like Godzilla. But I'm going to play from the heart and just kind of use that scale. And it's kind of easy to bounce back and forth and put accents in certain points, create tensions, and then release them in the appropriate places. Bring it home, as they know, and that's B. When in doubt, get your ass back there. All right, let's go ahead and mess around a bit. And I think I've got these studio strings. I thought I was on instrument 5, but no, I did set this up. Now, there's all different types of strings in here, but I like these because they got a nice texture to them and attack, but not too much. And yes, they sound fake as all get out, but once we put the effects on them and other things, they're going to sound bad. All right. I mean, good bad, not bad bad. All right, so what I want to do is hit this and close this, give me some more real estate so I can see the length. And then let's get this smalled up. I don't think we'll need this. Let's delete that. Keep your workspaces tidy, people. I really don't need any of these for this track. If I want to use something like that, I'll pull them in later. All right. And we've disabled the metronome. All right, let's see what goes on here. I'm going to go ahead and put a repeat from 1. And give enough space for a tag. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of play over and over again and create, I don't know, 2 tracks, 2 takes, 3 takes, and then do a comp folder perhaps from that. All right, here we go. I just realized that I didn't have this set up to make take folders, only to do a merge. So what I need to do is go here to settings, MIDI, recording, and create a take folder, cycle on and cycle off. Okie doke. And since I know I'm only really targeting this section, let me just go ahead and do the repeat for, yeah, about here. And a little before then, so I can be there for the intro. All right. And the whole idea here is that I'm kind of throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. So sometimes I'm going to make some bold jumps and whatever, but everything can be fixed because it's MIDI, it's data. So if it's too loud, I can just get in there and bring it down or what have you. If it didn't come off exactly as planned, I can edit it later. As long as it's not me editing everything in by hand, because then it sounds like it's fake, you know. All right, here we go. All right, that's enough of that. Wankery. Pure, utter wankery. All right, so what happens now is I can go down and let's open this up a little bit. And now I've got 3 separate performances. But I'm not sure why those. Okay, there we are. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. And this is sort of common practice in recording studios everywhere, is you don't hope for the best with the one take, although sometimes you do, you know. But, you know, if you don't get fortunate and hit every single note, what you do is you hit the same performance, and you try and be as consistent as possible. And then the recording engineer stitches together one track of all of the best parts of your takes. And that's what's been done here. But I mean, some of this stuff I could just kind of move wholesale from place to place. So what I tend to do is just come at it one section at a time and audition each little bit. So we can break these up, first of all, into their sections so it's easier to sort of switch in between them. So I want to make this just a little bit bigger. I can see right now our little intro area. We don't need to have that in there. I'm actually going to make these cuts while it's all stacked. All right. So we clip this, and then we go over here and clip the end here. Always neat and tidy as much as you can with your tracks. All right, let's find our edit points. Boom, there's one. Nice, nice clean break in between notes for the most part. I mean, as far as I can tell with the stack, but that's where I was making moves. And I was trying to separate, lift my fingers off the keys so that I have these moments to sort of get in here and make the cut. And even if you don't have that happening, it's going to give you the option of what needs to happen to notes that are at the intersection, whether to split them or shorten them or remove them entirely. So there's our one edit point. Let's go for our next one. This is a point. It's a downbeat. I can see I've got some stuff that's sustaining over that, but I feel like 18 needs to happen. So let me make the cut. And then let me check the chat for questions. I'm just kind of in the zone here. So let me, boom. I keep hitting B. This and Final Cut Pro have hotkeys that do the exact opposite thing. It's really wild. Dooba-dooba-dooba. Oh, so you've got cats out there doing things as well. You understand what that's all about. Nice to meet you as well. Hello, Caroline. Nice to continue after Mount Dora. Absolutely. Very cool. RLP7786 has an ambient or new age sound to it. Sounds good. It really does. And I'm saying that because it's Jerry Rockwell who is doing all of the work, basically. I'm just doing some playing around. The only thing I've played so far has been the piano and just this little string part. But it's been a lot of fun messing with this. All right. Let me check and make sure that everything's working. Still, I gotta keep my eye on everything here. Okay. So I've got another edit. Let me find one more edit point. .22 looks like it's pretty good. Boom. And probably one more. We'll see. That'll be its own little section since it caps the whatever is going to be there. All right, so here's how I work it from here. We're done recording, so I can unarm that track. So I'm going to expand everything now. but I'm only going to work at a section at a time. It makes it easier just to see, oh, I like the first quarter of this. The middle's not so great, so let me swap it with one of the other two. And just gives you more options on the fly than trying to listen to whole big sections and replace them wholesale, you know, depending on what you've got. So we're going to audition, first of all, just, I guess, the first track, first take. And this is where I need the repeat, right here. Pretty good. Second take. I'm going to say that's my favorite. When I played it, I liked it. I'll tell you why in a second, but here's 3. I'll let you vote. And I'm not feeling that one, but that's just me. So if you are out there right now and you're watching, which one of those do you like? Take 1, take 2, or take 3? So 1, 2, or 3? What do you think? I'm going to make the call. It's 2. I think it's 2. And you know why it's 2? Because 1 is not bad, but it's already heading for the stars, and it seems a little too early for it to be heading that direction. And 3, I guess I tried to make some space there, and I'm not sure what we're going to use. It may not be a string, so it may not make a big deal, but it doesn't feel like it flows. And if we use something that has a fast attack, then that sounds stilted. I like 2 because it's better than the other 2. Also, it's going down at the beginning, so it gives us room to go back up again and soar if we want to. And listen to it. It sounds a little bit like a line from The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Listen to this. Right. It's that that fifth dropping down. And I like that. There's something very regal about that. So I think 2 wins. Okay, let's go ahead and move over to the second section here and start with take number 1. Take 2. Hang on, I gotta fix something here. Because I did trim these, there we are. Because I trimmed these, the MIDI notes are not right at the beginning of the measure where I set this repeat. And for that reason, they are not triggering. So I need to go here and move them forward a little bit in order. Well, it may be that they're over the line too. Let me see. Right here's the beginning of that. It can be very touchy if you're not where you need to be. Maybe it's sometimes it's because the note before it is overlapping. You can see actually it is overlapping by a small bit. And do you know that it all it takes is that little bit and it won't trigger right there? Isn't it? Now see that? That was like a 30-second note. So it helps to zoom in if you're not sure why something's not happening. Now we should hear that downbeat string. I like that. Very soaring, goes from low to high, and actually brings us back down again. So we've got some room to grow. Not doesn't look like much is happening with the third part here. Third take. I'm not sure what happened there. So let me go to Studio Strings 1 because that also had the issue of this there fixed. Let's hear that now. It's better, but it's I like 2. And so far, it seems like take 2 is more inspired in terms of whatever. And take 1 was a little bit maybe too eager to jump into it. And then take 3 was I'm not sure what's going on there. All right, let's go ahead and move this over. Now, I don't see anything big on the downbeat except for maybe here. Let me go ahead and check that now. Oh, look at that. It was way over the line. We wouldn't have heard that. What is that noise? Hey, what are you doing back there? Destructo cat. All right, here's take 1. You can fix that. I lost my mojo there on the second take. I like that. It's very melodic. And it comes in sooner. I mean, if it's going to be there, it should be there. And, well, let's listen to 1 again. Maybe it's good to have that contrast of the strings not coming right in. Now it feels like they forgot to come in. That's a terrible thing to think. What happened to the strings? Did you not cue them? All right, last bit. We may need, well, we've got the contrast of ending the thing here, but since everything is kind of coming boom, 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 take 1 is the only take that seems to wait. And I think that's where our break is. So that might be effective. Let's go ahead and listen to take 1. I like that a lot. I'm really going to call that. I think that's good because it continues the melodic approach of the third take up here. And it doesn't come in right away, so it lets our break happen, and then the strings come back in with sort of a definitive, afterthought thing. So I like that. Now let me zoom in on 2. Looks like we have a downbeat happening, so that may be cut off from the edit. So I'm going to come over here. No, it actually happens a little bit late. So let's take a look at our third take. That's very close. I can't tell. Sometimes you can zoom in way too deeply into these things. That looks like it's going to work out. And if it doesn't, well, it better be spectacular because I think 1's got the deal. All right, going to bounce back out of here. And let's check out 2. Okay, the last half of that's just annoying, and but the first half is like fun. Listen to this. If we just kept that, and maybe, it's really close. I could see jettisoning the opening of this and keeping that with that. Let's just listen to 3 and see what's up. Here's 3. Now, see, the tag is nice on that. We didn't catch the first note, but I wasn't feeling the vibe of anything else. And then the melodic part just seems a little over the top, and then it hits as kind of a stinker. I could edit it, but, I'd rather kind of go with the actual performance as much as possible. So, choices. I really like 2. I really like this ending here. And 3 is not really in the running, so it's between these 2 down here. All right, so I'm going to split this. This is great. I'm just saying that in terms of, I have to watch my say. All right, let's split that. Boom. Why am I not getting my split? Let me get out of edit. Command T. There we go. Split. So we're going to keep this, but then include this. Now see how they're both highlighted separately? So they'll play within the loop from their separate tracks. So there are a number of things I could do here to make this a little bit easier, but I'm going to go ahead and just take care of this downbeat note because it's not coming right in. Something's going on with it. That's right here. Sometimes you gotta take a chunk out of the thing right before it. Like right here. Oh man. go back to 2. So get in here, take like a 16th note off the edge of that. Not getting any love with the, I want it from up here. Okay. Split. No, just shorten. Okay, we get rid of this. And then we reselect this. And now we go down here to see if we can extend this note. Because it's not playing nice. But see, now I've got the room to move it. Well, maybe it's fine just to have the afterbeat there. Let me do one more thing. Well, there it is. It is sticking out. Perfect. All right. Now I would like to extend this note. So, don't do that. Let me just go see if I can drag this out now. Maybe I need to join these two. That's okay, the reverb will take care of it. All right, I think we got a comp track there, and that's going to work. Let me go ahead and extend it. And let's play the whole thing. It cuts off really soon. I kind of need to get in there and do something about that. But, I've just sectioned things off. I thought I was doing myself a favor, but maybe I just painted myself into a little corner here. Let me do this. This is going to be fun. All I want is this note. So I'm going to 23, and the note is... What's that low B? So I'm going to set this up to do one more take from 23 to 24. So I'm just going to back this up about here or so. That's our new take. And that's a 4. There it is. So we take a look at what it's replacing. We'll be right there at the edge of it. And take a look down here, and what got cut short? It was 2. Look at where those start. There's 4. Not long enough. Actually, I need to do this. Duplicate. We'll do it on a separate track. Okay. Added padding just in case I wanted it. Now we see how that spans that little gap there. And this is as much as I want, so we go T and trim. That's okay to trim this because we've got what we need. We're going to go ahead and trim there. We're going to trim this out. Keep. Oh, it was 2, wasn't it? Boom. T. And we don't have to remove it. We just need to highlight. Actually, we do have to do something about it. We can remove it. Oh, and we can leave it. We can double the note, not a big deal. But I can get in here and, oh, you know what? Let me do that. It's its own thing, right? That's it right there. And there it's not. And then we just set this lower, or we can edit the note, whichever we want. And now I'm going to ditch this note. All right. Woo! I wouldn't normally do a patch job like that, but I'm in that get it done stage, right? Sometimes you're just like, come on. All right. Let me go ahead and close all these up and make things nice and neat and pretty. We've got one little one hanging out here because I've just zoomed it in and diced that up so much. We've got this extra one here. Okay, let's go back to our full view. And let's review, see what we got going on here. We have our drums, dulcimer drum and dulcimer spice. Those are panned out about 15 on each side. They're higher frequency trebly, so we're going to push those off into the side channels. We've got the dulcimer sweeps and electric guitar lead, And those are warmish, and they're also dulcimer sweeps is support, chordal support, harmony support, and rhythmic support. And then the electric guitar, of course, is our melody. They both live in the same frequency range. They're warmer, so we're keeping them closer to the center. I think I've got this, 4 plus 4, and yeah, minus 4. So just enough off to the side. And then we've got these 2 tracks of electric piano that are just MIDI. So they're not going to be piano. They're going to be some other kind of a otherworldly keyboard sound to contrast with this great warm acoustic stuff we've got going on. Kind of spacey. We've got both of these extracted from Jerry's guitar lead, overlapping at one point to create some harmony. So I'm going to assign something kind of fun to that, and we can audition that here in a little bit. There's my piano part, which is organic and providing chordal support, and also support on the outer end of the spectrum, and a little meat in the middle, trying to avoid having it take up too much space there and leave room for all the string instruments. Speaking of which, we got the studio strings I just did, and even though they're fakey, bakey, wakey, they are very much implied to be organic and just kind of like a low cinematic score feel to it. So we're going to use some effects and some other things to dress that up. Otherwise, right now, they do sound lacking. And again, we could turn them into something else, but I kind of like the idea of going with the low strings. That's the plan. This is also the plan. I'm going to put up a cute little be right back sign. I'm going to make myself a latte and use the bathroom. And when I come back, we're going to mix this thing and get it done tonight. So hang out, and if you have any questions, put them in the chat, and I will answer them when I get back. The music you're going to hear is something I produced in the studio recently. I think this is Chance of a Moonshot that you're about to hear. I think. Let me just check real quick. Nope. No, actually, it's if you watched the last hour, I played it there. But if you didn't watch the last hour, this is Dance into the Night, and you couldn't hear me talk about it, so this might be a good time to kind of introduce it. It's a house song. I decided to write a house tune, and by golly, here it is. It's got 4 chords: G, E minor, A minor, and C. And the G is a second inversion, so there's a D on the bottom. And then there's E minor. A minor is a second inversion with the E on the bottom. And then the C is a first inversion with the E on the bottom. So that keeps the E on the bottom for like 3 of the chords. I wanted to create a sense of tension with that and play with that idea. It really sounds a lot like I've been listening to way too much Chess the Musical, which is some of the guys from ABBA. It's got a very ABBA meets house sound, and it's kind of bizarre. So have fun with that. I'll be back with my latte and the rest of this mix. Right after that, bring your questions to the chat. Here I go. All right, I'm back. I was wrong, actually. I was checking the feed, and it turns out that music that you heard in the background there is something I did before I brought this from Twitch over to YouTube. And that's called Chance of a Moonshot, which is kind of a play on the words if you know what it's all about. But basically, the sound, the clacking sound you're hearing, and it sounds like there's like a theme park, right? At the very beginning and the end, the atmospheric stuff. Yeah, it's a theme park in Japan, and it's indoors, and they have a chance toboggan, which is a really strange roller coaster that goes up the middle of a tunnel and then spins down. You've probably seen it at fairs and stuff. It's really old and uncomfortable and really kind of fun. Well, I love the rhythm of the lift hill, and so I sampled the lift hill off of that audio you heard and turned it into the backing rhythm and then improvised some stuff over the top. And it's meant to be an improvisation with one take, so there's some bad choices in there, but it was a lot of fun to put together. All right, so you'll appreciate it a whole you'll appreciate this a whole lot more if you've got headphones on or stereo speakers, because I will be mixing and doing things that you hear in a full stereo atmosphere. If you're listening in a way that you don't get that, you will hear stuff out of both sides, but you won't hear the stereo separation or the panning unless you're actually listening on a stereo Bluetooth headphones or earbuds or whatever. Just want you to know that and experience this the best way possible when you hear the changes. Otherwise, you really can't hear a whole bunch of what I'm doing when it's mono or dual mono. So let me get over here into Logic Pro, and let me just double check and make sure that that signal is going out, and it looks like it is. Okay. All right. Let me make this a little bit bigger. We see what we're doing. Come over to the mixer version now. And we have all of our tracks. So I'm going to do one more of these where I go, now we've got some other elements coming in. And I haven't done this yet, haven't talked about it yet. So right here in the middle of where all the faders are, you see these green numbers? And the idea is to get these numbers all around 10 at their peak level, minus 10. And that way everything is fairly balanced out. Some things will have, a little sound louder or softer, and we can make the adjustments. But visually, it's a great starting point to see that everything's sort of got this even keel. So I've got like the studio strings are 8.8 over here, 14.8. But remember, I hit them a little harder, so I'll adjust for there. And what else is this here? This is, there we go. This is, though, the piano. We haven't really done anything with that yet. But this needs to come down a bit, and that could come up a little bit. And the dulcimer strum could come down a bit. All right, let's go here from the beginning. All right, I'm gonna say that's pretty close. The one of the piano lines here was up at 8.4. I bumped it down a little bit. The studio strings definitely have a lot more presence than their numbers would belie, and so they're beneath minus 10. They're at 0.13, 0.14, but you can hear them plenty. And the whole idea is I would like to get them down around minus 10 under the radar, and then I will go through with an automation on the volume, which means I'll actually ride the volume fader while the song plays, and I'll raise and lower the volume so they're more dynamic than we have here, and take care of some of those peaks and valleys. Might also use compression, but I like to avoid using compression if I can help it, if the signal's strong enough, because compression can often make the sound harsh, and we're really trying to keep things as natural as possible. So, having said that, I think we're at a good starting point to start doing some actual mixing and working with things. So here's the number of things that we can do. First of all, we've already done the panning. Generally, like I said, I think I'm going to leave these strings stereo center since we have lead melody parts that are coming off to the side. They're also of a more of the low bass, mid-range kind of a thing. We'll put a little bit of sparkle on the top of the strings, but they're really holding down the fort a little bit. And they'll blend together with what the piano is doing in that range. And so it'll be interesting to see the collection, the buildup of different frequencies down in that area. So let me walk you through step by step through, first of all, the drums. And again, I want to try and get everything mixed while we're hearing everything playing at the same time so that we have a context for what we're doing. Prior to this, I set these things up with a template, and on that template are these reverbs, these channels. So they're already set up. I've got a short reverb, medium, long. I've got a delay that's at a 16th note. Our tempo is 64 beats per minute. So the calculations I've been using for reverbs and delays are based on 64 beats per minute and also about 128 beats per minute if I want things to go a bit faster. And then I've got an auxiliary here that's got a preamp on it, and then that's this Avalon preamp, which is really, really nice. And so I'd like to see if I could put this on Jerry's dulcimers and guitars and really get that nice tube amp warmth sound going on there. I can always add other things for effects or whatever else I want to use, and of course, but I want to time to the track everything that I'm doing here. And once again, I must use stock Logic Pro X10, whatever. I must use stock plugins and sounds, whatever it might be, so that Jerry can access them and utilize them when I send this back to him. So I can't use any of my fancy dancy things I got over the past few weeks that are just wild, but that's cool because the Apple stuff is really, really good stuff. So the one thing I am going to do is I'm going to isolate the drums and see if there's anything I want to do differently in terms of EQ and compression directly on them to make them stand out. We don't have a lot of drums in this piece, but what we do have needs to play a really big part and sound good. So I'm going to solo this just because they are the foundation. They're not the foundation. Everything Jerry's doing is. But in terms of frequencies, they'll be carrying a lot of the lower frequencies down there. So we are building our frequency fortress on top of the lower frequencies, and that includes this big bass drum that's in here, and making sure that any snares that come in have a warm sound to them and nothing too dry and nothing too clinical. So let me go ahead and get this going. Now we're going to expand this now, and now we can see all of the individual drums in this kit, from the overheads, the microphones that are capturing the entire kit, the kick in, that's the inside of the kick being mic'd, the outside of the kick, the top of the snare, the bottom of the snare, hi-hat, the toms, high, middle, and low. There they are. Wow, timing was great on that. Couldn't have planned that better. tambourine and shaker, of which I don't think there's any in this. And then we've got room microphones. So in order for this to sound as realistic as possible, given that it's this in-the-box digital thing, they actually have provided the signal of the room microphones that you can blend in for a natural ambiance. If I solo these out, you can hear it sounds like a faraway microphone in the corner of a room capturing the ambiance. So if you mix that in, they sound more real, like they were recorded in an actual space than served up fresh from your computer. I don't see any signal on room B. Doesn't mean it's not there. That might be another microphone, maybe the Tom mic or something. And then you have leak, and it's practically the same thing. It's like leak over from if you're miking the drums in the middle, like the kick drum and the snare drum. It's leak over of other adjacent drums and other things like that. Not hearing it now because we probably stopped. It's more present. It's more close to you than the room mics. But there's definite air in there that helps. The levels that are set right now are set for the patch, but they're not necessarily appropriate for what we're doing. So I'm going to take a listen to just this for a second and see if I want to do anything different. And what I want to do more than likely here is get into the most busiest part of the tune drum-wise. That's going to be the third section here. And as you can see, the drum parts are mapped out specifically into 4 blocks in the timeline. So all I need to do is put a repeat over this third section. And then I can be guaranteed that I'll be seeing all the drums that are used. So my first thing I'm interested in working with is the kick, because the kick's the heartbeat, thump, 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 thump of the piece. So I'm going to isolate the kick. What's on these kicks right now? Channel EQ. Looks like that there is a very slight low cut below 35. And the peak of the kick is, let's move this over. And I'm not going to use this, actually. I'm going to do this a little bit differently. So let's turn that off. All right, so see this big peak right there? Let me make this a bit bigger. This is the waveform, not the waveform, but this is the analyzer of the frequency spectrum of a kick drum, just a kick drum by itself. So when you look at any one of these in an equalizer, like what this is, the first peak is the fundamental, so that's the core of the note. And then roughly, not even roughly, at half of that, the next peak will appear, and that is a harmonic, another piece of that note. And if you continue to double that and triple that distance, you'll keep seeing these peaks. But as they get higher and higher in the frequency range, they get lower and lower in volume, because the kick really, the impact of the kick is living down here at about 45 hertz. And there's elements of the kick that are existing into the 30 hertz, 25 hertz range, because you can see this information as it beats. But the peak of it is right here between 40 and 50 hertz. And then there's that second peak right here at, if this is 100 and that's 200, that's about 125 hertz. So 45 doubled would be 90. So we're getting around in that area of where the second peak is. That's a harmonic on the fundamental. So let me go ahead and grab this point here. And I'm going to use a bell shape. And I'm going to pull it up, and we're going to increase the gain of the signal only where I raise this little shape. And you can hear that kick getting thicker and louder. It's getting kind of thunderous now, yeah? Let me check my flow here and make sure I'm still okay. We're good. Now that's over the top. I've got 15 dB of gain on there, and that's a bit too much, but I wanted to show you that that's what I'm doing with the EQ is I want to give it just a little boost, and I want to do it wide like this to include all that sloping off, that low information and this low information, and it's including a little bit of that second peak. That's just the heart and soul of the kick drum. This stuff here is good for the attack, the sound of the beater hitting the skin, but you can raise it up and it's not going to give you this thump. Let me raise that up over here and show you what I'm talking about. Let's do this over the second wave here, the second peak. And I want to narrow this bell to where I'm affecting less of the surrounding area. I'm just focusing really on this second harmonic. So it still sounds very much like a kick drum. It just doesn't have as much meat to it compared to this, right? So what we're looking at, this line represents all of the sound of the kick drum. So if we isolate just one piece of it, we want that part to be meatier. We're not accentuating all of it. So if I add this plus this, I'm getting solid good kick. But maybe I don't want all this. See how little information there is here? And so that might be contributing bad info. Between 200 and 300, that might give me a boxy sound that I don't like. We can hear it a bit if I go loud. It's not really bad, but listen to this. Hear that oh, oh, oh sound? Sounds like coconuts. That's feedback. That's a peak right there, and that's other kinds of feedback. Some of that stuff you don't want. It's not fundamental. It's reflections and whatnot, and sometimes those can give you a headache. Round up out here, around 1K or so, we start getting into more of a pleasing contact sound with the beater and the skin of the drum. Hear that? The higher up I go, hear that sound change. These are all components of the sound, and so we can put in more boost, more, but we can also cut. We can also pull this downwards and reduce that sound. If I went wide on this, the kick would start to lose its punch. So that's all part of EQ, and what I want to do here is just boost the apex of this just a bit. And nothing else really is going to be existing down here. So it can have its own little kick thing. And then I'm going to go ahead and do another little boost right over that second harmonic. And I'm going to be more specific about it and dial it in. Maybe not that much. All right. And then maybe I grab this, come over here, and get some of that nice impact right around 1 or 2, between 1 or 2, 3. This I could pop over maybe a bit more. And get some air in there because we got all that low stuff. And be very careful with the signal up here because there are other things we want to put in this range. But we can always take it down if we want to. Right now I like it. If you're saying to yourself, that's a lot of work for just one drum, that's kind of the point. We have to go track by track and really give our attention to everything. Now, something I have not done, and I'd be remiss if I did not do this. Let me go and move envelope down here and the channel EQ. And I'm going to go and add from utility or audio units, Apple, high pass. This is a high pass filter. Notice how that kick pretty much went away because this filter is killing everything. It's rolling off and cutting all the frequencies right now below about 7,000 hertz. So I'm going to bring it down. Remember, our kick lives at around 45, 50. So right now I got the frequency at 38 hertz. It's rolling off everything below that. But remember, we were getting some effects down into like 25 or so. So we roll off everything below 24. That keeps our fat kick. But if there's a bunch of nonsense, garbly gook down at the very, very bottom, that's not going to help our signal. We can roll off that and save some room in the mix. Likewise, and honestly, you could do this across the entire drum kit, but I do like to go on the drums I'm paying attention to. I like to do this per drum, but you could just do the whole drum kit if you wanted to. I'm going to pull this down one more and put in a low pass filter. And this takes care of the high end. And if you don't do this for a lot of your tracks, you'll get a buildup of high end, which can turn into a painful listening experience. A lot of people like to do it at about 16K, and I'm of the mind with drums that that's probably good. Up to 10, is pretty good sparkle. But above that, I'm going to say like 12 on this. I'm going to roll off the highs there. All right, now that's just the kick in. Now we got a kick out as well. Let me go ahead and show you the kick in by itself. Let me separate these. All right. And now added the outside of the kick. So I can bring that up a little bit. That's where the beater hits the skin. The inside is the result that you get inside of that big bass drum. It's the reverberation, it's the warmer sound of the two. So getting the attack of the beater and getting the warmth blended together is sort of what we're looking to do here. So I'm kind of feeling like maybe I want to go ahead and throw some compression on here. Some people say you should put the compression on first. Some people say you should do your EQ first. I think there are approaches that involve going, and doing both ways. The little EQ that's on the kick right now, I can just insert the compressor. Because when you change the compression, you will change the EQ and vice versa. So let me just go ahead and put a compressor on here. That's dynamics. Typically you use this for consistency. It's a digital thing, so it's not really a big issue, but I do want it to get to fatten up a little bit. So I'm going to go 3-1. We got that meter running. It's popping. We want to pop in time with the track, so I'm going to bring this attack or the release forward to about 10 milliseconds. You want that needle to fall down about when the decay of that kick happens. So you notice how some kicks are a little bit louder than others, and so in order to regulate that, I'm going to increase the ratio. This is the threshold, and I can adjust. This is when the compression takes effect. This is our input signal. You can see it's riding between -18 minus 12. So if I really want this to be super effective, pull this down a little bit like this, so it kicks in at 24 and brings this stuff down a little bit. Then I use my makeup gain. Now I'm peaking over here because I've got so much more energy going through, so I want to bring my fader down. .5, and it sounds nice and solid. So I'm going to do the same thing on the outside. Actually, let me do this dual mono. And let's get this moving. There we go. And then we can bring that volume down. Let's go to 5. And let's do the right side. Boom. Ever so slight different compression on the left and right channels, giving a little bit of space in the kick. We don't have a whole bunch of drums, so the ones we do have, we'd like them to fill that space kind of nicely, even though I'll be mixing the drums to the center, to the mono, for the most part. The kick and the snare will be mono. I'll be sending a lot of the cymbal-y stuff off to the side. All right, in context. All right, I forgot about this part here. Let me see what you guys got going on in the control center. All right, see ya, Harry. All right, so here's the snare. So here's what I'm going to do to make things a little easier. Move this EQ down. I'm going to copy high pass and low pass over, option, slide, and then make adjustments. Instead of having to search for it in the menu. This is for snare top, and then it's for snare bottom. I'm going to move this in to where I get snare a lot. That's going to be at the end. So we don't need all this low stuff down here for the snare. We can actually go, let's take a look at the snare. This is the top, so it's miking the snare from the outside, looking down. There's a microphone pointing down at the snare, and the stick is right there, so we're going to get that stick hit. Let's get the channel EQ. Analyzer's on. Where's the snare? There's our peak. It's about 160 hertz. So we don't necessarily need to make that bigger. There's other things that we can do to make this sound a bit better, and that actually involves moving a little further this way. But I think before I even do that, I'm going to go ahead and put a little compressor on it. Again with the dual mono. And these compressors actually have these presets for stuff like this, where I could just go to drums and then a rock snare bottom or top. We don't want that. Most of them, in fact, the presets are all for like rock and pop and things like that. Here's one for snare top in general. Automatically just wakes things up. Nice warm sound. I like to get that attack or that release a little quicker so it falls in time with the decay of the snare. That's good, nice and quick. Still has some dynamics. We're at 4-1, so that's good. Let's turn the knee to 0.4 and make it happen a little quicker. And we could put a little snare, put a little reverb on there, and that'll open that up a little bit. But before I go further with that, let me go ahead and finish up with the bottom as well. And here's our low pass. And I'm going to leave all the low passes set for about 12-ish or so. It's one more setting I don't have to make. All right, let's bring the snare bottom in. Let me solo that. So if we don't need anything really below 160, we can clean these up. And the one way you basically tell is you just sweep your filter back until you start losing some of the sound. It degrades. And then you bring it back right to the edge of where it sounds good again. And then find your edge. Just at the edge. So now I'm going to go do the same thing over here. Hit shift, that keeps that line from going below 0 dB. We don't want to change the gain. There we go. Snare bottom's ready for a compressor. We'll go ahead and use there's a rock snare bottom. There won't be an impact. So let's see what that's all about. Well, that's nice. Let's get that meter bouncing. We can probably increase that a bit. That's 10 milliseconds. It's going to be a lot quieter than the snare top. I'll put them together. Nice. And let's hear it with the kick and everything else. I'm going to close the mixer, highlight snare top and snare bottom, right click, and create a track stack. Oh, hello, cat. Come on. Create a summing stack, and then close that. Go back to the mixer. Now I've got my snare top and bottom on this one channel strip, so anything I do to it will affect both of those tracks. And this is where I want to put, okay, we got glow up there and channel EQ being used amongst these two, right? So I'm going to go here to bus, and let's first of all get just a room snare chamber. So it's a small room. It's a little boxy. I think for the big hit we're looking for, we're going to want to go with something like a hall. So let's go to long verb. That sounds bizarre. What's going on with the long verb? Chroma verb. It's concert hall. Let's try. And we're at 7.3 seconds. It just seems kind of wimpy. Let's go ahead and change this to film music hall. I might want to just put these directly on the channel. Because it's added something here at the top. I'm not sure what it did that for. The glow. Take the track stack off and apply them independently and see what goes on there. So we're going to flatten that stack, reopen the mixer, select this one, and then go to the send bus, long verb. Certainly we could do better. Well, I can see where kick has its routed out to its own bus. So maybe I need to come over here and do this. Well, that's for the kick, so never mind. I'm going to leave that alone. I'll go back here to chroma verb and pick something else out. Hi there, are you comfortable? got these big rooms here. Ah, now we're talking. Prince Hall 1. All right, hear that in context. Yeah, that gives a lot more space to that snare. The kick doesn't get any reverb. We keep that dry. I mean, we could put it in there for atmosphere, but I mean, we'll wait and see. I'd rather not do that though. And the toms, we need a little bit of wetness on those toms and some compression as well. So let me do this. Highlight the toms. We'll go ahead and we'll pull over the high pass. Low pass. I like pulling my compressions clean over without, well, I guess we can use that as a start point. And then we got 3 toms. I'm pretty sure I heard all of them sound. There's at least one there. Let me go ahead and open this up. All right, yeah, we got all 3 right there. I'm gonna change that loop to where they're hanging out. Got the pan set here. This was set by Logic, by Apple, and I'm gonna keep it that way. think I'm going to do the symbols and so forth as a collective, if I can pull that off from the main deal here, because that will lock everything together. And I think I got the isolation of the lower stuff, the kick, the snare, the toms. I don't know if we've got other stuff. I've raised up a little bit of the room mics, and we got the overheads, which I'll treat, as cymbals. Hi-hat. I'm going to apply a little bit of glue to the top of that. So let me go ahead and close this up. And just get here with the standard graphic EQ. Turn off the repeat. Bring this back to the beginning. So I've sold the drums, and here is the EQ. So the processing down here at the bottom is set to stereo. So whatever changes I make here, it'll make it to everything across the spectrum. But what I want to do is I want to send the high information, the upper mid-range, and the sparkle region up here to the side only. And I'd like to give a little extra kick to things in the mid. So I'll head to the kick here in a second, but just for the entire set, what I'm about to do is going to make the effect happen in the side of the signal only. And I want to just take a shelf here at about, I think 5,000 hertz is good. Let's get these cymbals ringing. So if you're listening on stereo headphones or speakers, you should now start to hear the brightness of the cymbals coming up you'll hear them largely in the right side of your headphones right now. And that is because we go down here and open those drums up. We can see the hi-hat is swung all the way over to 44. And if you were a actual drummer, that's the way they position these, where the drummer would actually have these things as opposed to just willy-nilly across the way. That's why I don't tend to mess with them, so things sound authentic. So yeah, it may be a little weird not to have hi-hat on both sides. We do have the accents of cymbals and other things from the overheads coming in. So what I may want to do here is just boost the overheads a bit more. And what we need to do probably here is individually, let me go ahead and clean up the high and the low. Take this up to around 12. And do a low pass. Because we really don't need low information in our cymbals. And I've actually raised the gain a bit here. It's so dicey to try to get it back to 0. We could actually, if I go this high, it goes away. But not much. We lose some of the lower frequencies of the cymbal. I think that's good right here. And then just a kiss of compressor. with some soft distortion. It's bright without being overbearing. Turn the makeup gain up. I think I really want to put those strings through the Avalon. That's bus 8. Let's do that first. And I think we got a little bit of reverb built into the patch that I've just taken out. Avalon 8. So it is not set for anything in particular. I need to go here and set it for these strings. Now it does have a preset for strings. And the people that program these things know much better than I do. Well, we'll have to find it under keys. And Juno Synth Boost may be the closest thing. Piano Ballad Beauty. I'm thinking probably Synth Boost. And then we can change the individual settings here. This is basically the preamp compression, which already has a little bit of compression on the studio strings. And that is courtesy of the patch. And then over here I've got the EQ. So let's listen to some of these strings. Makes a big difference already. The threshold for these strings is set really low, minus 8.5. It's barely reaching that. We have no compression going on at all. So let's change that. The little magic button there is distortion right here in this corner. You have your choice of soft, hard, or clip. And believe it or not, soft seems to have the most effect in terms of fattening the sound up. I save that setting as studio strings because remember we've got this other this one note over here by its lonesome, and I need to have the exact same thing going on there. So I'm going to go in here, click studio strings, and now those settings, when that note pops in, it'll match the settings of the other track. Let's go ahead and check that. The compression brought the volume change up a little bit, so I'm just going to back it down over here. Just a hair quieter there. That'll do for now. All right, so throughout all that, I took these two overlapping parts derived from Jerry's guitar out because I wanted to see how everything was fitting so far before I figure out what I really want to do with those. I don't have any idea about panning at all. So now that I've got these hanging out a bit more, let me just do, I heard something pop. Are we still on? Okay. Let me go ahead and put a little bit of, or a lot of reverb on these guys. Now it came with reverb. That's bus 10. And that's what came with the patch. And I suppose. Let's see what we got. it's interesting, when you go with a patch that's already set up and you're like, okay, I'll just go with this. And then you look how it's set up and you're like, well, this could be so much better. So we got this delay set up and it's all right. It's a 2 second delay. I'd like it to be a bit better. This is the Prince Hall 2 second delay. But the pre-delay was set to 0, which means that the delay effect, the reverb effect, was happening as soon as the string sounds, and it's kind of getting buried in that. So pre-delay sets it so where you hear the instrument first, and then the tail of the reverb or the effect of the delay kicks in a little bit later on, allowing you to clearly hear each note as it comes in. So I've got this set for about 63 milliseconds. I have an app that says exactly what to use, but I'm going to guess right now because my app's on that camera up there. All right. Let's listen to it this way. That's nice. I would like it to be just a little more wet. Maybe I'll keep that one and mix in another one as well. What do I have on 8? Oh, that's Avalon. And I'm not using it, am I? I don't have it turned up. Let me go ahead and try it. That's really nice, but the shortness of the reverb really reveals the fakeness of the strings. I am going to go ahead and put that Avalon over here as well, and that's at 6.8 on that bus. 6.8, just for that one little string that comes in. Okay, oh, so touchy. Okay. So what's the big wet that I need here? Well, I thought I had one. It's not working very well. Long verb. Let's see if we can resurrect it here. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that, but we do have a bigger reverb built in. And that's going to be the large 3.9 second hall. Let's try this. That's more what I'm looking for. Now that all that space amplifies the strings, and so by nature of that gain, I now bring the strings down a bit more. So the reverb effectively is to bring them off of the front of the stage and put them towards the back of the stage. And even though they're louder, when I bring them down, that actually helps with the fading them towards the back of the sound stage. So pull these both back down here. They've got, let me add the reverb on this side, and I've got 4.1 on bus 12, 4.1. And again, we're just making this exactly the same because it's got that one single note that needs to come in, and we want to treat it the same so it doesn't stick out because we've put a different type of reverb on it or a different amount of reverb. Cat, ouch. What are you doing? You just getting comfortable? I got shorts on, man. All right. So those reverbs are now set the same. That's a little bit better. I might even go wetter, but for now that's good. So let's see what's going on here. Beth is back. I've added a little distortion on drums. I'm guessing that the term distortion means exactly what it says. It distorts the sound in some way. But what does it mean? So there are different levels of distortion. There's the obvious level where you've got electric guitar plugged in and you're really altering the sound, creating a dirt, and it's kind of a extreme. But there's also a very subtle harmonic distortion that you can use. So if you've got a sound wave moving through and it's got, say it's like a sine wave. Can I pull out a sine wave here? Let me see, I could do this. Let's see, pull this out. Let me open up another instance of a software instrument and get something that I'm not supposed to use, but I'm not going to use it on this. I'm just going to use it for demonstration. Let me find, what's it called? Splice? No. Not alchemy. What's the name of the darn thing? Serum. There it is. Let me open this up. And let me find a nice round, edgy sound. That's pretty edgy. I'm looking for like a sawtooth waveform here. That's a sine wave, and it's nice and mellow. That's kind of brassy, but we're looking for this like this. That's nice, edgy. So in order for this to work, I'm going to have to go to the end of this track here and lay in a little bit of this sine wave or this sawtooth wave. All right, and I'm going to put the repeat over the top of that. Clear that a little bit. And then we'll play this kind of aggressive sound on a little loop here. And we're going to make it even more aggressive. And that was O'Malley's sign to get up. He's a little sensitive. And I've got these open back headphones, so the sound isn't contained inside of here. It's leaking out the back. And every time I played the keys on that, he was like, nope. See you later. All right. So let me play this. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab this plugin and place it on here. The plugin is called Chroma Glow, and it is a distortion filter that comes with Logic Pro. And inside of here, there are a lot of different types of distortion emulators, from tube amplifiers to magnetic to preamp, and different types of emulators for different types of sounds. So I'm just going to run through all the presets while this tone plays, and you'll actually be able to see on the display as each different type of distortion interacts with the tone, and in some cases softens it, and in some cases actually hardens it and makes it shinier. And the distortion here is working in different degrees, not as intense as electric guitar, although there is some of that in here. And it's working as a sort of EQ to shape the contours of the sound. Let me get this to where it's more, where it doesn't really have that gap. There we go. Too long, that's what it is. There we go. So you can hear all the different types of distortion have different effects, sometimes bringing out the bass, sometimes bringing out the treble, and oftentimes cushioning the hard edge of the sawtooth waveform. And so other types of things that have transients, snare hits and guitar, picks and things like that, you can soften using distortion. And that's what's going on with the compressors is I'm using sometimes a little bit of distortion to round out the sound a little bit, to warm up the sound, and take the hard edge off of some of those transients. At the level of mixing, I know on electric and souped up acoustic, at the level of the instrument, but I'm curious if you can answer my question in a succinct way. Well, I hope I did. I've been told by people like you that I like distortion without explaining it. So I have to say what was going on earlier is the difference between drinking an ice cold Mountain Dew versus a protein shake that has some sugar. Very interesting. Only understand the term compression in the sense that apply to rabbit ear antenna satellite. Reverb and delay I understand, so glad that something you were doing makes technical sense to me and not just music to my ears. And I've been talking to you and you're probably in bed by now because you said, very cool, thank you much, I'm going to bed. Oh, a lot smarter than when I woke up. Well, if you're still around, awesome. The actual on the record is going to be, what's the date this time around? Let me look real quick. It's coming up at the end. It's coming up next week, actually. I need to go to Patreon and scroll down. To most recent post. Okay. 2/17, February 17th at 11 a.m. will be the official on the record. And that's the actual workshop where I'm leading through. I mean, this is basically what we're doing is working on mixes, but I'll typically actually do some recording and show you how to mic everything up and then go through the process. We haven't quite gotten to the point where I'm just ripping through mixes and showing the process. That's why I'm doing them with this on the record, under the radar thing, which is just every once in a while I'll work and have YouTube live running so that people can ask questions as I'm working, and that's awesome. Very nice. Yes, we will definitely continue this way. I won't have a schedule for when I do the Under the Radars, but the monthly workshop will be at least towards the end of the month, every month. And when I'm on tour, those dates do move around, based on what I'm doing and where I'm traveling to, that sort of thing. All right, let's go ahead and jump back into Logic, and let me move out some of this stuff for the demonstration. Boom. We're going to leave in instrument 6. No, we can get rid of that too. All right. I'm going to get rid of our repeat. And the strings have got the reverb I'm looking for. So we're good there. And they're way in the background, which is where I want them at this point. Very subtle. I might bring them out a little bit. Now, what I did with the drums and the mid-processing, I put those drums with side only, and I raised up the 5,000 hertz and put that information off to the side. So I may or may not do something like that with the strings because I want to clear an area in the middle for, the stuff that Jerry's doing here. Also, while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to get back into the drum and come here to kick. And all of this work that I did to put some power in the kick, instead of processing this in stereo, I'm going to do this mid only. Now let's see if we can hear the difference. Let me go stereo. Okay, listen to everything that's kick oriented. Now I'm going to move this. Listen for it in the corners of your ears. Mid only now. All right, I didn't do any work on the snare. I had talked about doing something and then just didn't do it. So on the snare top, where the snare, where the drumstick actually hits the skin of the snare on the top, gives us the greatest impact. So here I have given us a kiss at 186 hertz to warm that up a little bit, and then at 3K, about 29K, give about a boost to get some of the hit in the upper register of the frequencies here. So upper register is not the right word. The upper frequencies, the attack of the snare up there now, and that clears things up. Let me go ahead and close that drum thing up. Come on back here a little bit. Got our drums collectively. I've processed the cymbals all up in the upper 10K range, 6K, 5K, all that shiny stuff I've put off to the side. It's not all of it, but a good portion of it's off in the side channels now. So dulcimer strum is sounding pretty good. We've done a lot of work over here with the compressor. And it had a little bit of this intensity. So I put a de-esser on it, and that's cleaned it up a little bit here. We could probably get this a little higher. And this is dry as a bone, so let's go ahead and get in here. Now I could also throw this into the Avalon, but that is currently set for the strings. It may not be bad for this to keep it in the same universe, so I'm gonna open it up a little bit, see what we get. That's quite nice. Dulcimer Spice is dry as a bone. And 3 is the reverb that for whatever reason, it's being blocked by the other stuff. So I'm going to borrow the reverb that came with the other stuff, the drums. That's going to need some automation. All right, so no real work's been done here, and this is going to be a good deep dive. Let's start near from the beginning. I've got high pass and low pass. Let me go ahead and clean this up. I feel like I can cut it there because we've got plenty of information below 67 to take up all the bass, to handle all that. And so we don't need all of that information, I believe. That'll let this pop into view here a little bit better. Is that happening now? Or yeah, definitely happening now. That's my neighborhood for you. That's not in the recording. It's in the stream though. So this rhythm dulcimer strum, you can see it lives largely in the 100 hertz, 200 hertz. It's got a lot of information here, and that's where a lot of other things are trying to cohabitate. So I want to come in here and get rid of some extra stuff in just the dulcimer sweeps. So I'm going to get myself a little repeat going on. Need to isolate the solo and get some of these lows out of here. The little dome here at 2K is an area that has a lot of presence, and now that we've established and cut out some of the mud, I want to counteract that and put some emphasis on the good upper mids so that we can hear that cut through everything else here in a little bit. Still a dry signal, so it's going to open up even more when I do this. All right, save, and I really should have gone, at this point I'm going to go ahead and save it as a D. As we go into the final phase here, save. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and play it from the beginning and just evaluate what I've got so far before bringing in these two parts derived from the electric guitar and assign them to some sort of ethereal, otherworldly lead that we can bounce off of everything else here. There's the piano, which we've done nothing with, so let's go ahead and start with that. Piano's definitely got roots down here in the bass, but we don't necessarily want to grab all of it. Say 70. And now we're going to blow it up. Let's go ahead and put the low pass on. And now, compressor. There is a preset in here I do like, electric piano. I also like the vintage Opto. It's got a lot of power there. Okay, let's get the EQ in. Piano is living in between 200 and 400 with a lot of activity, but we got this bass down here at about 80 to 125, 150. So what else do we have in the bass? We've got kick at 45. It's safe. I will roll off this piano again using a low shelf or a low cut. Because I was seeing some activity down here. Now we have strings that are going to be down here a little bit. So we'll be watching for this area to start clashing. A lot of stuff going on here, and this is where the piano is really going to stand out. Right now I'm looking for good stuff. Right? You can always count on 3K to have a nice open sound and some presence. We'll go wide. We got some howling going on down here. Here's our fundamental. Good. Here's some more. There's a little some stuffiness in here at 100 or at 150. It's also the edge where the mountain dulcimer lives. The low D is at about 150, 153. So I'm inclined to sort of drill a hole down around this lower end of the mountain dulcimer range because we've got a whole bunch of it in this mix. It's not going to kill the piano to lose a little of 150 hertz and surrounding frequencies. And that clears room for the mountain dulcimers. At least in that range right there. And let me further do my piano work here. It's a wider instrument. I want to use some of this to go to the outside, especially since I put some of the high boost on here. And I'm going to go ahead and leave that stereo. Now, what else do we have here in the middle that could benefit from some attention? Let's see. Later with another band of EQ. Right now I want to put a little reverb on here. Alright, now we're going to focus right here on where these dances are going on with these two. Let me save this first before I start messing around. Now, let me go ahead and change this to Alchemy. Alchemy's fairly new to Logic Pro, and it's got all kinds of cool stuff. We're looking for a soft attack, and we can always soften that down here with these. So maybe I'm looking for a pad, not strings. Yeah, analog, layered. Maybe layered would be good. Ambient. Just ticking all the little genre boxes here to lower the amount of returns. I'm going to start cycling through and listen to these. I'll mute that one first. Well, that's fun. Gonna be honest, that 1980 sweet pad is actually really sweet. So I can do all kinds of stuff with it between the two of them. So I'm just going to do the same thing on this other one. No, let me choose something different for this one. So I can have two different sounds playing off each other. So we will do alchemy. And maybe we choose instead. Yeah, let's try this. Arpeggiated. That means it's got a sequencer running. Melodic. So this is going to take it away from what Jerry did and add a sequenced element, which is a randomizer, basically. Aquatic ghosts. Hey, let's go ambient. Aquatic ghosts. All right. All right, so I've got these two very ethereal pads hanging out, and I have not separated them on the stage yet. So I'm going to start doing that and move them away from the center. All right, I'm going to save this again, and this isn't the finished version, but this is very close, and it achieves my goal of wanting to at least get it to this stage where I can do one final sort of run at it. I could see adjusting some of the reverb and the levels, and I definitely have to automate some of the levels here so that we have a rise and fall of melody and some of the side elements sort of doing this wash back and forth. So right now it's maybe 80%, I would say, and it just needs a little bit more care. But it's not going to happen now because I've got to get to bed and wake up and do the 11 o'clock Ionian Institute tomorrow morning on Zoom, which once again, if you want to attend that, it's patreon.com/Bing Futch, and scroll down and there will be a post there showing all of the free workshops going on this month. And there are two this week. One is Ionian Institute for Beginner Mountain Dulcimer, and we'll be learning some tunes tomorrow, as well as focusing on fundamentals. And then on Thursday is Loop U, which is all about how to use a looper to create arrangements with your instrument. And that's a lot of fun. And then on the record will be the 17th of February. That's next week. And we basically, instead of me mixing and you asking questions, it actually is me going from start to finish, miking up instruments, recording them, and then going through the mix down process. And it's a lot simpler. We usually have just a couple of tracks, one instrument and then maybe a second instrument for those of you who want to do your own recording. And we'll slowly build our way up to doing more sophisticated setups. But of course, during the week, I'll be here doing the under the radar sessions, which will be me just working on my projects, remixes for other people, work for hire, stuff like that. Backing tracks, you name it. So let me see what else is going on here. So I'm glad, Beth, that you have been here to see all this stuff. And the dulcimer spice term actually is from Jerry Rockwell himself, who named these tracks. And so again, I try to leave as much as possible that was his, so that when he gets it, he recognizes it, and then also doesn't recognize all the other stuff I've done with it. I don't know if there's a way to save the chat here. In any case, let me see if I can try. I think actually when you play this video back on YouTube, which it will stay in the live section, the chat will be there as well. So hopefully. And if you have any questions about this going forward and going into next week for the actual workshop, drop me a line at bingfutch@yahoo.com. Let me come on back over and do a proper send off by going to my main. Where is my cat? He's just about had it with me with all these high frequency noises through these speakers, through these headphones. Thank you all very much for checking this out. And once again, go to patreon.com/BingFutch for the schedule for the free workshops for the rest of the month. And it's Tuesday. Happy Hump Day coming up tomorrow. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow morning for the Ionian Institute, or Thursday for Loop U. Thanks again, everybody. Thank you, Beth. Appreciate you being here and hanging out. We'll hope to see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.